have trouble with Zoom and want to get to see those presentations, this whole webinar will be recorded, of course, but the presentations will also be available for those who may want that later on. So just thought I'd let you know that. So I think we have, Juanita, we have 26 people there now, 20 attendees along with the presenters here. And it's a couple minutes after 9. So I think probably in the interest of time and make sure we have get all those presentations out, we should probably start. And so I'll just say quickly, welcome to everybody. Thanks for joining us for our information session today. We have representation from our partners at the Department of Tourism, Culture, Industry and Innovation, and Hostel Newfoundland, Labrador here with myself to co-host the webinar. So thanks for joining us. And I'm going to transfer this over to my colleague here now, Caroline Gilliard from the Department of Tourism, Culture, Industry and Innovation. And she's going to be our host moderator for the webinar this morning.
Thank you, Randy. I'm just getting my screen up. Thanks so much, everybody, for participating this morning. My name is Caroline Gilliard. I'm the Director of Sector Diversification. One of the sectors that we are responsible for in our sector development work is tourism product development. So I'm really pleased to be here to connect with you and start a dialogue, collaborate on what we know, hear from you, have a good conversation here this morning. Thanks to the DMO and H&L for organizing the session this morning. We are all slowly becoming equipped to be on Zoom more often than we ever did. So just a little bit of an overview of the session today. So the focus is going to be on really just giving getting a conversation going on tourism product development, research and marketing. I'll give a brief overview this morning on tourism product development. Then I'm going to turn it over to Michaela Robathan. She's the Director of Sector Research, and she'll give a presentation on what we know from a research standpoint. Then it's over to Andrea Peddle, Director of Tourism. So she's going to give us an overview of what's on the go in marketing. Then Randy will give an overview of, from the Destination Management Organization perspective around what they're up to for regional efforts. And then Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador will give a quick overview as well around just a provincial scope on some of the key things that they're working on. So the purpose of today is just to collaborate, to share some intelligence, communicate some of our go forward plans, and with you identify some future opportunities either in the short term or long term. So I want to be here for you, but also hear from you throughout the session. So just to back up a little bit, we've got 2 hours. If past behavior is a good predictor, we might go over 2 hours, but we're going to try to keep it tight. We do want to have Q&As during the session, at the end of the session. But you'll see at the bottom of the screen, you can do chat and you can do Q&As. So if you want to just have a chat throughout the session, go ahead in the chat room. But if you want specific questions asked of the presenters, just go into the Q&A, myself and Randy and whoever will be monitoring the Q&A there this morning. And then if possible, after each of the presentations, if there's a question, we'll ask that of the presenters, and if not, we'll save the Q&A until the end of the session. So just very quickly, for me, everybody I think on the call would know that we are actively engaged in a provincial tourism product development plan, and we also have 5 regional destination development plans, which one of those would be for the Labrador region. So the idea around the regional plans and the product development plan, it was very focused on trying to create and deliver Newfoundland and Labrador brand experiences that would attract more visitors, encourage them to stay longer and experience more. We've been working really hard over the past number of years to implement the findings and recommendations from the Labrador Tourism Destination Development Plan, as well as the Product Development Plan, and we've been making some really good, solid inroads. It turns out that, interestingly, 2020 was the year that we were going to do an evaluation of our product development plans and the destination development plans in alignment with the vision for tourism, which took us to 2020. So we had set up a bit of a plan for how we're going to do an evaluation of the product development plan and the Labrador plan this year. So that's already started. We're doing an assessment of what were all of the recommendations for Labrador, what has been completed, what didn't get completed, where are the gaps, and what are the opportunities, so that we can move it forward into establishing a new regional plan for Labrador for product development. But now we understand that even though we're going to do that evaluation, that's fine, but we also now need to layer on a completely new set of variables of how and what has changed in how we develop tourism, both in the short term and in the long term. And so both doing the evaluations and getting a good sense of the lay of the land right now will help us lay out our new plans. As you all know as well, everything that we're doing in product development is crafted around the visitor journey. So we look at everything, we're trying to build a quality, sophisticated set of experiences along all of the touch points of the visitor, of the typical visitor journey. And the typical visitor journey has the same elements. It would be, they have a planning and booking stage, then they have to get here and get around. They need visitor services like VICs or brochures or Wi-Fi or washrooms. They need food. Accommodations is a pretty big touch point. There's this big grouping of all of the things to experience while they're here, and then they leave. And we want to have that post-journey touch point with them, so that they're spreading word of mouth and word of mouse with social media. So what we know is that, you know, for the past 3 to 5 years, we've prioritized everything around all of those touch points of the visitor journey. And we know that the visitor journey is a great way for us to organize ourselves in where the gaps are and the priorities moving forward. But we're going to have to reshape what the priorities are in all of those touch points along the visitor journey to now, you know, with all of the new variables coming at us because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have to reshape our experiences and our tourism product development priorities to drive visitation and spending in the future. And how we're going to do that is to get a really good understanding of how the market has changed, how travel has changed, how restrictions are going to limit experiences that can be offered in the short term and in the long term. You know, what travelers require now, how they book differently, what they want to experience now as opposed to what they used to like to do, and how do we promote our experiences. And there's so many other things that we need to understand, and you're going to get a lot of that, at least what we know so far from Michaela on this presentation. So when we are evaluating and developing what our new plans are going to be, we're looking at this from a 2020 and beyond. It's going to have really, for all of the touch points on the visitor journey, we're going to look at things through 4 kind of main lenses. First and foremost for us, we're tourism product development. So we are really concerned with the experiences that visitors have along all of those touch points. And we want that experience that they have at every touch point to be quality, customized to them, and sophisticated. So experiences will be dominant in all of our plans. Then the other layer is the market readiness of understanding who the market is, what are some of their unique needs, and how do we respond to those, whether that's online or in our visitor services or in some of the other peripheral things that we deliver outside of the main experiences that people have. through the implementation of the product development plan and the Labrador regional plan, we established a strong foundation of collaboration. And in particular in Labrador, we're really working in the 4 main, sub-regions. And we've got a lot of stuff percolating, and we've done a lot of engagement in the region. So we want to definitely maintain that level of collaboration, and it's more important now than ever. And then the 4th area would be around performance, because we know things are not always going to be like this. It's going to evolve. People are going to get more comfortable as time goes on, and we need to be constantly reviewing our performance and adapting how we're doing things to continue to meet those visitor expectations and needs. So very quickly, the next steps for us for tourism product development would be in the short term, June to August. We are continuing to work on with all of TCII, working on policy and programming approaches to assist operators during this time. So one of the big things that was announced 2 weeks ago, last week, was the Tourism and Hospitality Support Program. The link for the eligible criteria for that program was released yesterday. It's on the TCII webpage. So I can quickly go and get the link and post that in the chat line, so everybody can see that and go in to get the criteria on that. But that's a $25 million program that was announced to help tourism and hospitality operators in the form of either $5,000 or $10,000 non-repayable contributions to help with fixed costs. And hopefully it'll help ease the burden on some of those costs that you've experienced while you're not generating any sales, or when you're looking forward, seeing that your sales forecasted for this summer and fall are probably going to be severely impacted. So that's one of those programs, but there's also changes to the business development support program. So operators can get 75% contribution from TCII versus the original, it was generally 50-50. And there are a number of others that have been put in place. I just named the 2 of these here, but we're all in TCII really actively engaged with our clients on their programs, their projects, ideas, assisting with individual needs. We know that everything has been impacted, and your ability to meet some of those commitments or milestones or original thoughts on project timelines, or everything is kind of needs to be adjusted in some way. We're continuing on with the evaluation of our existing plans and trying to understand what the product impacts are going to be from COVID. And then we're trying to gain, as we're going along, new insights into how markets have changed and how travel is going to change. That's going to impact and guide what our product development and policy priorities are going to be. So in the medium term, from now until the fall, we want to collaborate in forums like this with industry, with partners, with our other stakeholders, our destination development plan implementation committees, to share intelligence, communicate new information. So that's going to help us as a group of organizations that are all working together to establish and refresh what our priorities are for tourism product development based on this new intelligence that we have, what the existing product offering is going to be, and what our new opportunities are. And through that work, we'll also establish some new tourism market readiness guidelines to help guide investment, and also identify what we need to be doing for quality assurance now for travelers. Because as you'll see from Michaela, is that quality assurance and safety and being secure is all wrapped up now in travel. So the long term for us would be by the end of 2020 and going into the great beyond, we will create new provincial and regional tourism development plans. We will advance public and private product initiatives sorry, that should include nonprofit initiatives as well, and investment that are aligned with these new priorities to drive visitation and spending. We want to implement all of our plans with that strong industry, community, regional, and provincial foundation of collaboration that we already have. And many of you will recognize that our goal in the product development plan, along with all of our goals in everything that we're doing in Newfoundland Labrador tourism, is to collaborate to grow visitation and spending for all. And we wanted to do that by attracting more visitors, encouraging them to stay longer and experience more. And even though everything else and all of the other variables that are going into all of our plans have changed, what we know is this is still the mission. Regardless of where we are right now and what our visitation is going to be in the short term, we all need to collaborate to grow visitation and spending. We need to bring back that level of visitor travel that we once had as recently as last year. So a quick snapshot, I wanted to give you the contact information for the tourism product development team specifically. As I said, my name is Caroline Gilliard, director. So John Angelopoulos is the manager, and Lucy Alway is the provincial tourism coordinator. So John and Lucy are primarily responsible for Labrador, and we work in partnership with our economic development officers in the regional offices in Labrador, as well as with Randy and other organizations in the region. And so these are our this is our contact information, and we are more than happy to connect with anybody that wants to have a shout out. So I'm going to end it there, and I will stop sharing and pass the podium on to Michaela, who is going to present on some research. Over to you, Michaela.
Okay, well, thank you, Caroline. Just bear with me for a second as I'm sharing my screen. Just one second, almost there. Here we go. Are we good? Can you hear me?
Good.
You see my title?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Caroline. So let's get started right away. Thanks for having me on this session today. And as you know, we always appreciate it when we have an opportunity to share our research with our tourism partners and colleagues. And before I get started, I just want to give a big shout out to our research team. We have an opportunity right now to look at a lot of research. I've never seen so much in my life. And sometimes it does feel like we're drinking a little bit from a water hose. So thanks to my team, our team, to bring some structure and analysis to all the numbers we have looked through, and who made it possible to organize this and share this information with you today. As you can see, we have a relatively short agenda today, but we have lots of things to talk about. So I want to get started right away. And so to start off, I'd like to start off with a few thoughts that we need to keep in mind as we move through today's analysis, to have some context and perspective for what we'll be talking about. First of all, this is a health crisis that we're currently experiencing, and it's a crisis like none of us have ever experienced before. We've had a few over the last decades. The most recent one was the financial crisis in 2008-9. You know, if you keep on top of the news, you know that many analysts are trying to find parallels to previous crises to figure out where we go in the future, and which is a good thing to do. But unfortunately, we got nothing to go on right now, because we have never seen a crisis like this before. We have never had an almost complete shutdown of daily life. Restaurants, hotels, people didn't go out. People don't want to go to stores. We've never seen anything like this in our lifetime. And also, this crisis is not confined to a certain place or time. And as long as the coronavirus is somewhere, it is everywhere. We have to keep that in our minds. Secondly, this pandemic has impacted every facet of our lives, and that includes travel and tourism. And one of the hardest parts, I think, of this crisis is for us as stakeholders in tourism and travel, is the fact that we have to acknowledge the role travel played in spreading the virus. Um, and, you know, thinking about this, like people getting on a plane and spreading the virus, and by traveling, spreading the virus potentially to other communities. Thinking about this will certainly have big implications for tourism's rebound and recovery. And also we know that pretty much everything has changed for all of us in our lives. And we know down the road somehow we'll experience a vastly changed reality. And we're certainly in a unique moment in our lives. And there's still a lot of uncertainty. And how we feel and think right now and how we deal with the uncertainty will likely determine what our new reality will look like down the road. So what applies to life in general also applies to tourism. And we all have many questions right now, especially when it comes to tourism. And it seems like every question where we find an answer to just raises more questions. So we will look at some of these questions and the changes that are happening over the next half hour or so. And we'll talk about what we know and what we don't know, and what it means from a big picture perspective in travel and tourism, as well from a Newfoundland Labrador perspective. And to understand where and how the changes are happening, let's have a look at the travel universe or travel ecosystem, as you will, to see where the impact of these changes are that are caused by the pandemic. As you know, in the center of this travel universe, of course, is the consumer, because it's the consumer who makes the travel decisions. And as you know, a consumer's decision to travel to a destination is influenced by a lot of things, and all of these factors are experiencing massive changes right now. So just let's have a look at the travel infrastructure or the supply chain. We know that throughout the globe, pretty much all destinations have some sort of travel restrictions in place. Some are entirely closed, and we've never seen that in our lives. When we think about transportation, nobody right now feels comfortable with getting on a plane. So airlines are changing their capacities down, destinations. They're not flying to many destinations. Some of you may have seen the pictures of the big airplanes grounded somewhere in the desert, or parked somewhere in the desert. How we experience attractions and experience events has forever changed. In the accommodation sector, some hotels are entirely shut down, and accommodations are currently experiencing a real big downturn. One of the biggest impacts consumers and their travel decisions, sorry, backtrack a little. So one of the biggest impacts on consumers' travel decisions comes from some of the economic factors. You see here now, economic factors always play a role when it comes to a travel decision, but I'm not sure if they have ever been as important as they are now. Like in terms of consumer confidence, job security, the cost of living, debt levels, disposable income. We're seeing massive changes in all of these factors. So, and even from a consumer perspective, values are changing, behavior is changing. What people want to get out of travel is going to be changing. So there's like massive changes going on everywhere. So, but so what does it mean actually when we try to figure out the future of travel? So we only have been in this pandemic for a few months, but I guess for some of us it feels like it's been years. And but some of the sheer uncertainty that we experienced at the beginning of the pandemic has evolved into bringing out more of a picture of how things might pan out in the future. We know that we will have to live with the virus until there's a vaccine. And we also know that there can be life or will be life um, with the virus, but certainly comes at a cost. We will experience restrictions, limitations that will impact what we can and cannot do. And that certainly applies to the travel universe. So we also have to live with the fact that there are just a lot of things that we don't know right now. And many things we just learn as we go, right? And when it comes to travel, every piece of knowledge comes with more questions, and some of these questions you can see here on the slide. We talked about the infrastructure, how it's going to change. How difficult is it going to be to plan a trip down the road? How difficult is it going to be to go from point A to point B? We know there are going to be changes, but what exactly they are, we're not 100% sure at this point. We know the consumer will be different. How different, we don't know. What's going to stick around, we don't know. So lots of questions and not that many answers right now. And from an economic recovery perspective, that's a big, big black hole, as I want to call it at this stage, because we just don't know how long the economic impact will last and what the implications are in the long term. We know there's a lot of financial support right now. Somebody's got to pay for this. So we don't know how this is going to pan out. So we said a lot of things are happening right now. And when we look at where we are right in terms of restarting tourism, a lot of things have started to evolve especially over the last couple of weeks. I'm sure you all on top of the news, and it just seems like every day, every hour, news is coming in that destinations are opening up, travel bubbles are emerging. Especially there's a lot of activity in Europe and in Asia. Some island nations in the Caribbean are starting to open up. So there is movement in the travel space. But how exactly it will play out, we have to monitor, so we have a chance to see how everything is developing. As for travel in Canada, so one thing I want to point out throughout this presentation, and when we talk about some more about the numbers, I wanted to focus on Canada in particular, because from a Newfoundland Labrador perspective, Canada is still our main travel market, and the resident and the domestic market will have the most important role to play in restarting tourism. So the focus is on Canada. But there's other information on other countries, on international consumers out there if anyone is interested. So from a Canadian perspective, there are some jurisdictions, some provinces that allow free domestic travel without restrictions and even without a self-isolation requirement. As of right now, PEI, Newfoundland and Labrador, New Brunswick, and the territories still prohibit all non-essential travel coming in to the provinces. And some provinces do have some travel restrictions on non-essential travel within their provinces. And as we heard a couple of days ago, non-essential travel restrictions for Newfoundland and Labrador are lifted as of Monday. So some good news out there. And we also know that outdoor activities are resuming. Our own campgrounds are starting to open up. There's dates now in place for historic sites and museums to open up. So life was slowly coming back to life when it comes to these things. As well, from a travel perspective, from an outlook perspective, some bookings are picking up. Airlines are adding destinations and capacity to their schedules. So we are coming back to life when it comes to travel. But what exactly does the future hold, right? So in order to make things happen in terms of travel, we do need the consumer. And so what do we know at this stage about the consumer? And this is where our research comes in and tries to figure out where consumers' headspace is right now. It is a challenge to look at some of these numbers because all information is very fluid. Right now, there's a lot of research companies out there that do polls and pulse checks almost on a weekly basis. So the information changes. Some of the information almost changes constantly, and trying to develop a picture. But the beauty about this is that, as this research is done consistently, we actually get a neat time series on how things are panning out. So it's very interesting to watch how some of the responses to the same question change over time. So, but again, like this quote you're seeing on the screen sums it up. It is a challenge to figure out what is going to happen, but we certainly have a lot of good information that makes it worth to give it a try. So as we look at these numbers, we need to keep in mind that these are snapshots in time. As I mentioned, some of this changes on a weekly basis. So what I want to look at first is consumers' mindsets. And when it comes to how Canadians feel about the coronavirus crisis, we do see a little bit of an improvement how Canadians feel about it. But on the grand scheme of things, they're still very weary. So for instance, if you look at the top bar here now, 51% of Canadians say that they are afraid of contracting the virus. 48% of Canadians are saying that they find it stressful to leave the house and be out in public. 30% of Canadians feel that the worst of the COVID-19 crisis is yet to come. So these are pretty telling numbers, but especially I'll put one number here in red. This is the 37% of Canadians feel that the worst of the COVID-19 crisis is behind us. And these are brand new numbers, the 30% and the 37%. They've been updated this week. As of last week, that 37% was 28. So certainly Canadians feel that things are picking up, that things are improving, and it certainly does have an influence on their overall mindset. So what an interesting number here is, to me at least, is that 58% of Canadians feel that governments are relaxing social distancing measures at the right pace. So Canadians are not impatient to get things started. Everybody feels that we're doing the right thing. And again, that's a good thing to help curb the spread of the virus. So Canadians certainly are in the right frame of mind when it comes to this. And also, very telling number, 76% of Canadians think that there will be a second wave of the virus. So again, totally the pandemic is on the forefront of Canadians' minds, and that will certainly have an impact on how they act and feel about certain things. So when it comes to some activities, some are a little bit more travel related than others. You can see here, and again, depending on whose research you look at, those numbers might be slightly different, but when it comes to certain activities like dining in restaurants, flying on an airplane, attending large gatherings, going to bars and pubs, those numbers are still fairly low. So again, Canadians have the pandemic on their minds and don't feel quite comfortable doing certain things in the current circumstances. So considering the current mindset of consumers, what can we tell what's happening in terms of new consumer values and trends that are developing? We have been going through this crisis for 3 months. I mentioned that before, and we know all that. In general, trends and values don't really develop in such a short time. So, but what we see in crisis situation is that some of the things that have been simmering or brewing under the surface are accelerated and are coming out quicker than it would normally be happening. And so what are some of the things that we're currently seeing in shifts in consumer values and behavior? Probably at this stage, probably some of this is not really a surprise anymore. Of course, health and wellness concerns are top of Canadians' minds. Value of personal space. Certainly, none of us has ever really thought about these things. I think I certainly haven't. But when it comes to personal space, you know, the physical distancing is almost ingrained now. I know we had a neighbor coming over the other day looking at our dandelions, and he came closer and closer and closer. And as I was watching, you know, the 2 meters difference was dissipating, and I was surprised how aware I was that you know, we keep forgetting about these things. We certainly, right now, we value our virtual space. How many times have we thought about going to a store and then have the second thought, well, should I really be going, or can I do this online? So we're currently living more of a virtual life than a physical one, as evidenced by this webinar. So this, the virtual life has come to the fore. And what I find interesting too with some of the new values that have emerged is the desire for community and the desire to support our own community. Now, for Newfoundland, Labrador, it's probably not that new, because I know, like, I've been living in Canada for 27 years now. I've been living in Newfoundland for most of that time. So I know how supportive communities are of each other, how supportive people are of each other, but it is spreading throughout the world, so, which is a good thing. And also some of the things that have come back to the surface is more care for the environment and sustainability, the priority for meaningful experiences, and also new spending habits. So those last three, they're not really that new. We have seen those values emerging after the financial crisis in 2009. And then I guess they were simmering along, and now they have attained much more importance again than they had over the past few years. And from a trend perspective, again, the digital lifestyle is likely here to stay. Back to the food basics. A lot of things in our lives right now revolve about cooking and cooking from scratch. You know, many of us are working from home. This certainly comes with new impacts on our life. We have changed our spending habits, and also what we will see is that local and domestic travel is going to gain in significance. So how do these shifts impact on how consumers feel about travel? What are their expectations and what will matter to them when they do start thinking about booking a trip and going to certain places? So again, you've heard about these. None of this is a surprise at this stage. We do expect impeccable hygiene when we travel, when we go places. We want to have control of our personal space. We want to be in outdoor spaces where there's a lot of space. We have a preference for local and domestic things. And also authenticity is starting to play a bigger role again. Again, something that has come up during the financial crisis. And again, coming out of the support for local and community, we will likely see that smaller brands that support local culture, that support sustainability, and that express a sense of community will see we'll likely see a preference by travelers. So let's take a look at how some of these new values and trends might play out for future travel. So there's certainly a wealth of impacts on what we do in the future when it comes to traveling. So just alone additional factors that we need to consider when we do travel, you know, talking about health and wellness and safety of a destination that we pick. Are we even going to be able to enjoy a destination the way we want to enjoy it? Are we going to be able to see everything that that makes that destination distinctive? You know, some of the things that I certainly never thought about when I was traveling is travel insurance and cancellation and rebooking policies. Certainly a very difficult topic for tourism operators, as travelers will be looking for certainty when it comes to this. One of the interesting discussions that have developed again over the last couple of weeks, and I was just reading something about this morning, is whether travelers can be lured back to travel through deals, or are they going for something else? From a pricing perspective, nothing has really tipped the scale yet. We know, like when it comes to air travel, for instance, the decrease in capacity would mean that prices for airline tickets would go up. Again, supply and demand play a role here. I've also read an article about Ryanair. They're celebrating the opening up of Europe with 30-euro one-way tickets to lure people back to travel. And certainly, but from a traveler perspective, from what we've seen in the research, nothing has tipped the scale yet, really. But what we do know is that at the end of the day, value is going to play a huge role. And we know from our experience, we've been doing value really well here in our province. We've been talking about this since our exit survey in 2011. And we know from the results of our exit survey in 2016 that we have made great strides in delivering value to our visitors. And if we continue on this path, we will certainly do well. And from anecdotal evidence, we also know that a lot of operators in the province are struggling with some of the price points they should be offering to resident travelers in particular. And I guess it is difficult, we do realize that, but I guess at the end of the day, it's not just a matter of telling your potential visitor that something is $100. It is very important to tell them what they will get for that $100, and the potential traveler will decide in their minds if that is value to them or not. And I would say they let you know how they feel and what they think. So certainly from a perspective of what type of experiences we're looking for, this will change. People will focus on health and wellness experiences. You know, they might look for smaller tours, even if they have to pay for these tours a little bit more. What type of experience we want to have depends on our tolerance for crowded spaces and things like that. And also what will be very important is that travel has been taken away from us right now. We cannot go the way we used to, like we decide we go somewhere, let's hop on a plane, do that, or plan to travel 5 months down the road. It's just too much uncertainty right now to do that. So we will all gain a greater appreciation of travel. Right, we'll be looking for different things. We'll be more conscientious what we do, what we see, where we go, and how we behave as travelers. So lots of change to be expected there. But again, how long it will last, we're not quite sure yet. So, and considering consumers' current mindsets, their new and emerging values, and the new trends that we're seeing, we have to add a whole new layer to our travel universe, our ecosystem that we looked at the beginning. And that new layer is the consumer's health considerations. So I think that we can expect this layer to play a role until at least we have a vaccine, but likely even longer. It's here to stay as consumers also acquired a whole new attitude when it comes to their own health. So now that we have looked at where the consumer's headspace is right now, and what some of the new and changed factors are that impact their travel decisions, let's have a look at how consumers actually feel about future travel. In the news, there's lots being said about pent-up demand, and that pent-up travel demand will be the savior of travel and tourism. And there's certainly a lot of evidence for that pent-up demand. If you look at the numbers here, there's a lot of Canadians, and not just Canadians, a lot of travelers in the world had to cancel or change their vacation plans, and they certainly want to make up for it when they can. 63% of Canadians would feel comfortable taking a Canada-based vacation, which is great news. Some Americans actually miss travel planning, which I find very interesting. And let's have a look at that last number specifically. 23% of global consumers say that they will prioritize purchasing a vacation or trip when they can. So the 23% might not seem very, very high, but if we put this in context, that this was the top category among 11 categories that included things like home furnishings, electronics, luxury purchases like a car, and things like that. So it came out on top of those 11 categories, and the next closest category was clothes at 15%. So we can certainly see that that consumers generally have travel on their minds, and some of us will actually go for it when it's possible. But on the other hand, there are also some signs that consumers still feel some discomfort when it comes to traveling. And then you can see the numbers here that are very telling. And I'd like to talk about the first one here a little bit. 58% of global consumers say this would give them confidence to start traveling again, and their pick was when I feel it's safe to travel. So what that means, so in the next highest categories that were in this question was when governments tell me it's safe to travel, or when borders are opening up again. Those came in this 30% range, but over half of global consumers, they will not travel until they feel themselves in their minds that it is safe to do so. So that's pretty telling. And I guess from a mindset perspective, there's not really a lot we can do, but when it comes to communications from us as a destination, there are certainly things we can communicate to consumers, telling them that we are safe and that they can come here and feel safe. Also, more than half of Americans feel that coronavirus will greatly impact their decision to travel in the next 6 months. So there's a lot of factors in play right now that could tip the scales either way. People want to travel, but they're not quite at that point where they really feel comfortable to do so. So, and I can sum it up better than that quote you're seeing on the screen. When it comes to resuming activities as before, it's about your risk tolerance. There's no magic formula, and indeed there is not. So in some cases, we just have to have some patience and with the consumer, get them in the right space of mind and help them to get there. So that's certainly something we can address as a destination. So from a psychological perspective, the toll of COVID-19 on travelers' mental state appears quite significant. And from what we've seen in the research, it suggests that travelers will likely experience a lag between when travel restrictions are lifted and when they feel comfortable traveling again. So even if travel restrictions are lifted tomorrow, we won't quite be on the road tomorrow. As well, no, hold on, not working. Okay, so even if consumers want to travel and reach a certain level of comfort with traveling, the next question is, who will actually be able to travel? Who has the financial means to do so? So as the economic damage caused by the pandemic is quite significant, and as we have seen at the beginning in our travel universe, there are quite a number of economic factors that drive travel decisions, and the impact of these factors is magnified by this crisis. So at this stage, we looked at the pent-up demand, which is certainly there, but we don't know what will tip the scales at the end of the day and for whom the scales will tip in favor of travel, whether it be the boomers, the millennials. The jury is still out on this, but we do have some numbers that we can look at to get a sense of where things might be going. So, and what comes out mostly from this analysis is that the economic impact on travelers and travel decisions will be deep and likely lasting. When we look, for instance, at that red bar in the middle of the slide, 51% of Canadians believe that the economy won't be back to normal for 1 to 2 years or 2 years or more. That's quite telling. As well, 39% of global consumers expect that the coronavirus will have a big or dramatic impact on their personal or household finances. So that's certainly going to impact disposable income. And if the disposable income is not there, people will be unlikely to travel. More than half of Canadians mentioned that their retirement savings and other investments have been negatively impacted. So again, any travel decision that we can make in the future will certainly be impacted by these things. So we know we all want to restart tourism. There's no question about it. And we want to bring the economic benefits back to the province and our communities. But we also have to acknowledge as tourism stakeholders and operators that a restart of tourism is impossible without the endorsements of our own residents. We know the risk of travel bringing the virus back to our community still exists, and we need to respect how our residents feel about welcoming visitors to their communities. This is a very delicate balancing act, and at this stage, we're not quite sure which way the scale is going to go. But the picture is becoming a little clearer as we do have research that shows us exactly how residents are feeling about various types of visitors. And we also know how Newfoundlanders and Labradorians feel in this regard. So this is brand new research here that we can look at. We ask our own residents how they feel about different types of visitors to their community. So we have conducted 2 waves of this research. One we conducted at the beginning of May, and one just last weekend. So again, brand new results here on the slide that you see. And when you look at the top 2 bars, I would welcome visitors traveling to my community from other communities near me and from other parts of my province. So this involves provincial travel, and really what you want to see is a lot of green in this bar and not a lot of red. So the green portions of the bar is where our residents endorse provincial travel. So you can see here over 60% of our own residents would welcome visitors from other parts of the province. So that's certainly good news, and it's certainly a strong development from the previous research we had, where this endorsement was just over half of residents would feel welcoming towards provincial visitors. Again, like when we look at the other origins of potential visitors, even from Atlantic Canada, not so much appetite right now to welcome any of those visitors. Just about a quarter of residents would feel welcoming towards visitors from other parts of Canada. And basically, residents feel very strongly that tourists from the US and other international countries should not visit. So the message here right now is that our own residents feel a little bit more comfortable seeing provincial visitors in their communities, but not much appetite right now to see visitors from outside the province. And here, just to quickly point out the changes from the two waves of research you see in the top two lines in the table. Big change from the low 50s to the 60% range of basically endorsing provincial travel throughout the province. So now, how do our own residents feel about traveling, and what are their plans? From a mindset perspective, we talked about the consumer mindset earlier. We talked about the financial impacts, and we talked about new values and behaviors. We are currently working with Destination Canada and all our colleagues across the country to conduct that type of research for our own residents. We don't have the results yet, but we expect that very soon, within a couple of weeks, hopefully. And again, we will be repeating that type of research over time, so we'll get a good idea of a good sense of how residents feel about traveling and certain activities and where they would want to go and things like that. But what we do know from our own research that we currently have is that there is some pent-up demand within the province when it comes to provincial travel. As you can see, so 69% of residents had vacation travel plans that they had to postpone or cancel. 38% were already planning to travel within the province for vacation before the pandemic. And we also had some brand new research just this week that told us that 53% of our own residents are definitely or very likely to travel in Newfoundland, Labrador for leisure once travel restrictions are lifted. So certainly a very good base to work off when it comes to stimulating some travel within the province. So what does this mean for a tourism outlook for the province? I think it has been pretty much established that in the short and midterm, our province will still be impacted by the virus and various travel restrictions that exist, including the one that prohibits non-residents from visiting the province. As we've seen, intra-provincial non-essential travel has been allowed as of Monday. So also there's some discussions around Atlantic Canada travel bubble, but as you have seen, residents don't seem to be too keen on Atlantic Canadian visitors right now, but this might develop over time depending on how the virus situation, new cases are developing. New Brunswick had a little bit of a bad situation, and I would think that filtered into our research or is reflected in our research. And one thing I would like to point out, resident travel is valuable and very sustainable for the province. Residents in the past have contributed a significant amount of spending for tourism in this province. It will certainly drive any travel activity in the province for a little while. And we have to recognize this, that this is valuable. It's not a staycation. I'm not keen on the term staycation, because it sounds like plan B, we can't go anywhere, so let's do something here. It's certainly much more valuable than just trying to say, okay, well, we can't go, so we stay here. We have to recognize that. And of course, we have to get to know our resident travelers and figure out what their values are, what they're interested in, and our research will certainly help with that. From a long-term perspective, just a couple of comments on the kind of issues we may be dealing with for non-resident travel, non-resident visitation. We know air access is likely going to be an issue. How big, we don't know. Whether vehicle travel, auto travel can make up for it, we don't know. But these are some of the things we have to consider. We're in the midst of trying to develop a new tourism strategy, and probably for the next 2 to 3 years, we probably have to consider like how sustainable our industry is when we get fewer non-resident visitors. We've had 500,000 over the past few years. I doubt we will see those numbers anytime soon. Just got to be realistic here. Now, some of these issues are not bad in itself, but they need to be considered in any decision that we're trying to make. These issues can be addressed with innovation and creativity, and our industry has certainly shown over the last decade that we do have that innovation and creativity in us, and I think it will enable us to address everything that's coming at us in the next few months and next few years. And on the other hand, we have a lot of things, and we're known for a lot of things that we had established earlier that travelers might be looking for. We're already known for wide open spaces. We know we have an abundance of nature. We have outdoor activities. We generally don't have big crowds of a big population when we go travel. We do have a lot of small local operators that are the epitome of our culture and that promote our culture, our history, and our people. So we're very well set up for a restart of travel and tourism. Our challenge is going to be that probably every destination in the world is going to promote itself as such. So, but we know how to do this. We've laid a great foundation over the last decade or more, and we'll continue to come out stronger at the other end with our messages. So, and just one last thought before I finish off. And this applies to our destination as it does to the rest of the world. As I said at the beginning, we are in a unique moment in our lives, and we have to ask ourselves when all this is over, do we want to go back to the old ways? Or do we use this as an opportunity to rethink, to reset, hit the reset button and redo travel? We know there's been issues around traveling, with over-tourism is one of those ugly terms that's been in the news for the last 2 to 3 years. Certainly a big opportunity for us to control and plan how we want to recover from this pandemic in terms of tourism, and how we can do this responsibly and sustainably. And, we can be in control, and I think we're very well set up to handle this. And on this beautiful Friday morning, I'll leave you with one more thought. For those of us who have probably serious doubts right now about the resilience of tourism, let's keep this in mind. Again, I can't say it any better than what you're seeing on the slide here. We are going to need a holiday, and the work will still be there as long as we look after it and support it. So that's it for me, and I'm going to hand it over to Andrea Peddle. Thanks. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Michaela, before we jump over there to Andrea, I just want to give our participants an opportunity to get their questions answered. There's a few there that relative to your presentation. So the first one was that I'll mention here is Roxanne Notley asked a question about any research in how comfortable communities are with visitors coming to their town. And I think you did a great job answering that. And Roxanne was predicting that there may be some change now that people are moving outside their homes. And it's nice to see that updated survey and show those numbers. So great question. Thanks for that, Roxanne. Another question by Bonnie Gowdy asking what the difference is between domestic travel versus non-essential travel. I noticed that in your slide around the Nova Scotia reference when you looked at comparative jurisdictions across Canada and what was happening there. So I know the domestic travel as well. So is there a difference in the data set?
Well, I guess from a travel perspective, domestic travel can be anything. You can travel for business, you can travel for like personal reasons, leisure. So some of the jurisdictions we have, I think it's BC, Alberta, Ontario, and Quebec. Basically, you can visit those provinces for any reason, but when it so it doesn't really matter why you want to go there, and there are very few restrictions. So that would be considered domestic travel. There's no non-essential. I guess the difference here is that I guess if you don't really need to travel, don't have to travel, you should not do it.
Okay. And another question here asking if there are any surveys to indicate if Newfoundlanders and Labradorians will travel in 2020. And I think you've answered some of those, but the other part of that was what are their motivations for that travel? Any indication of what may be motivating that resident travel?
No, I don't have that part of the research yet. We know there's some demand for travel. People want to go, and from postponement perspective, people who had trips planned, they postponed it. There's some share of residents that postponed it to this year. But we're waiting for the research results that we're doing with Destination Canada and the other provinces. Once we get those results, we'll be able to answer those questions a little bit more in more detail, saying, okay, this is what our residents are interested in, the types of activities, the types of destinations they want to visit. So have to bear with us for a couple of more weeks before we get the results of that research. And as soon as we have it, we'll certainly share. I know everybody's waiting for it, and I wish I could speed things up a little, but it's a little bit out of my control. Actually, it's a lot out of my control.
Yeah, and that's the last question, comment by Peter Bull asking about the same thing. It'd be good to see some segmentation in terms of what regions of the province that people may have intentions to travel to. And so we'll stand by and wait for that research. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and we have a couple more waves of some research we're doing within the department that is somewhat travel related. So we certainly have an opportunity to take the feedback from these sessions and add some thoughts to the questions that we're asking in that survey.
Okay, thanks. Over to you, Andrea.
Hi, everyone. It's great to see you guys all. See your names anyway. It's great to have the opportunity to speak with you today. It's beautiful, sunny, beautiful Friday. And yes, today I'm in my office. Wi-Fi kicked out on me, but it's nice to be back. I gotta say, it's fabulous. I want to shout out to my other colleagues about what's happening and what they've just done. So I am going to share my screen and share. And I hope you see it. There we go. Can you see it? Randy, is it a good go? Good go? Okay. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's great to speak with you today. I'm going to take a few minutes of your to describe the Newfoundland and Labrador Tourism Respond, Recovery, and Rebound Tourism Marketing Strategy that we put in place. Before we do all of that, though, I want to sort of take you back to the little story that we're going to tell. And the story is, in March, something unprecedented happened in our world, but COVID-19. And like many destinations, we stopped all marketing, all of our marketing. Newfoundland and Labrador tourism is always in the market early because we are the far east of the North America. So we start early because it takes planning to get here. So we stopped all our paid marketing efforts in our key markets of Canada, United States, the UK, and Germany. But we didn't stop totally. What we did is we implemented a three-pronged or three-phased marketing strategy going forward, and they are response, recovery, and rebound. So response is, what are we going to do? What are we doing from marketing perspective during this COVID, what I like to call the COVID pause? So what we did is we worked with your DMOs and federal and provincial and regional and industry associations to align our marketing and communication efforts. Then we're going to move into recovery. So recovery phase is, what are we going to do when the travel restrictions are lifted, primarily in 2020? And what we did or are doing are planning and developing and implementing marketing efforts to encourage travel to Newfoundland and Labrador and within Newfoundland and Labrador, only when it's safe to do so. And then that recovery program will continue on. And then we're going to kick into rebound. And what we're calling rebound is, what are we going to do to rebuild those markets for 2021 and beyond? So like we've said, like Caroline has said, and like Michaela said, our key things that we have to do is we have to rethink and retool for our traditional markets and our new markets based on the research that we're getting, and it's all going to be research based. But what did we do during the response phase? I'm not going to get into that, the fact for response, recovery, and rebound, what we know. Michaela talked about what we know and what we don't know. We know markets are not going to be the same. We know consumers will be different. We know the tourism industry will be different. Michaela and Caroline already spoke to that. But one of the things I want to leave you with is, from a marketing perspective, what we do know is potential travelers are dreaming and are curious about travel to Newfoundland and Labrador. And how do we know that? Is because they've been calling, they've been emailing, they've been engaging with all our Newfoundland and Labrador communication channels. And our team has been on the phones, on the emails, on the engagement channels, our social media channels, and our newfoundlandandlabrador.com, talking to these people because they're making inquiries and they're seeking trip counseling and trip planning advice. It's amazing. Also, our travel trade team is fully engaged as well. We have a number of travel trade and travel media who have been contacting us for new itineraries, for new stories. In fact, it was really interesting. One of our travel trade team received an inquiry and a communication from a new tour operator who must have been influenced by the fall season extension campaign that we've been doing for the past 3 years and the efforts of the travel trade, that they're looking to book a tour to Newfoundland and Labrador in November. So I think that bodes really well, and the confidence that many of our clients have in Newfoundland and Labrador and their interest. But what we do know is that people will travel, and Michaela's research just reiterated that from our research, is people will travel when things are open, when the travel restrictions are lifted, and when they feel comfortable about traveling. We know that. So we need to take that into consideration when we're looking through response, recovery, and rebound strategies. So for response, I just want to make sure that y'all know, oh my God, y'all know that we did stop paid advertising in March, but we didn't stop engaging with the customers. As I said, they were already asking us questions, so we didn't stop. We kept the tap on a little bit, and we focused on social and digital media, and we showcased inspirational and dreaming content. Pretty pictures of Newfoundland and Labrador, vast open spaces We shared a lot of our material on Facebook and Instagram and through our email marketing program. We showed our Tailblazers campaign. We put language lessons back out there. We even pulled back the digital coloring books that we had done a couple of years ago and repurposed them with tons of engagement, absolutely tons. I think one of our, the engagement, I think the team was saying for March, April, this is June, this May, oh my gosh, the COVID blur, I don't know where we are anymore. I think it was in April, March, April, or was it May? Anyway, it was 111% increase. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. So people are engaging with us. The other thing that we kept doing is we kept the brand search advertising campaign. And brand search is when you Google Newfoundland and Labrador, there's a little ad that pops up that says, want to know more about Newfoundland and Labrador, click here, and it takes you to newfoundlandlabrador.com. But we were already cognizant of it. We didn't want anybody showing up until it was safe to travel, and public health was all gung-ho for that. So many of the messaging that we had put out there, stay home, travel later, we look forward to seeing you. We also put COVID messaging and health messaging on all our digital assets. Again, like I said, we continue to work with travel media, respond to planning, and develop content. And one of the things that was really great is we were working with your DMO to develop content for both online and offline channels. And of course, we are, as we all are doing, is continue to have communication and engagement with our stakeholders and our industry partners. Like Michaela talked about, one of the things that's going to happen with travel, and we coined it travel from the inside out as travel restrictions lift. And so this is based on some of the information that we got on research with Destination Canada and other research that we've done, is that travel is going to start local. And when we mean local, people are going to get around their towns and all sorts of stuff like that and travel in a few distance. And you can see some estimates of what Destination Canada thinks the time frame would that be, like how long the trips would be. Then it's going to move to provincial as restrictions lift. Then it's going to move to national as restrictions lift. And then eventually it's going to move to international. Some of the research that Michaela pointed out is international is going to be slower because of transportation access, air access, etc. And people's comfort with everything that's going on. So we're anticipating international travel may not come back until 2021. One of the things Michaela also talked about is generally the demographic of those people who are going to be traveling in the next little while are going to be obviously people with stable incomes. Families and close friends. Families can be two people, couples are a usual market, or they can be larger home groups, family groups, or couple groups. Okay, so that's what the demographic is going to be. And it's probably going to be people who really want to travel, who really want to go to a place that's off the beaten path, that is remote, that has authenticity, that's got sustainability, so they can de-stress and recharge their batteries. I think one of the things that bodes well for Newfoundland and Labrador, Michaela spoke about that, is we have a foundation built over the past decade together that talked about Newfoundland and Labrador as being off the beaten path, that this is the place where you can come and recharge, that this is the place where we have open spaces, we're authentic, we're exactly right now what they're doing. And we've built that, and we've already got that brand established in the market, in that key market of that domestic market or that national market that we have. Remember, one of the things I want to reiterate is the fundamentals of we talked about was our brand promise. And our brand promise was and is a visit here is an opportunity to discover a wonderful, naturally exotic, and unexpectedly different place off the beaten track. A place for travelers to explore and discover something inside themselves. So all of this stuff that's going on right now, we're positioned very, very strongly in that particular marketplace. We've got good fundamental foundation to build upon as we go forward. So as we travel, as the market travels from the inside out, we're going to be marketing from the inside out, starting with local, expanding into provincial, moving into national, and moving into international again as people feel comfortable with doing so. And like I said before, we're back to marketing basics, the basics of marketing. And we've got a great foundation already established, as we talked about, but we've got to start with the basics of marketing. We've got to align our relevant messages with the right audience at the right time, with the information they need, and on the channels that they use. And we want to continue to fulfill that purchase path, that path of persuasion and purchase by matching that market with the product. And like I said, we've already got that established. All we got to do is continue to build on it and go back to basics, continue with those basics. So what are we going to do for the recovery? What are we going to do for 2020 to when travel restrictions lift? And travel restrictions have lifted in province. That was announced just the other day. So what we're going to focus on is an intra-provincial and inter-provincial travel. So we've got two things that we're working on right now. And first thing is we're going to implement some paid media campaigns, some advertising campaigns, first with an in-province campaign. And we're going to focus on close to home travel. Now that campaign, I'll talk to you about a little bit more. And the second thing we're going to do is unpause the domestic campaign and grow the market from the inside out when travel restrictions are lifted and when we can do so. One of the things that we do know is that by the looks of the information that Michaela just talked about, it is 62% of Newfoundlanders are feeling good about welcoming visitors. And that was a growth over what we saw a couple of weeks ago in the previous survey. And for an in-province campaign, to reiterate, Michaela pointed out, the research is also pointing out that 53% of Newfoundlanders say they would travel. So that's a growth in the numbers as well. So it maintains a great opportunity for us. The other thing that we're going to do is continue with travel trade relationships and media relationships, obviously, and continue to work with our travel trade partners. We're also opening up in the next little while VICs and provincially owned tourism attractions. So the VICs are looking to open at the end of the month. And provincial parks, there was an announcement yesterday. Provincial parks are opening for day use on June 12th. The reservation system, I believe, is opening up on June 11th, but that will be for when camping is available. And camping is going to be available a little later after day use. The other thing that is on the books right now is provincial historic sites is going to be opening up in early July, and so are provincial museums and other provincial attractions of that lake. So it's everything's starting to open up as we go along. So how do you guys engage, or what are we doing for the in-province campaign? So the in-province campaign obviously is going to be an at-home year campaign, and we're going to focus on this year is our year, Newfoundlanders and Labradorians' year, to experience what makes our home special and what makes this place special for all the entire world. I saw something in the chat earlier, and some of the things that Michaela is saying. Newfoundland and Labrador is a stellar destination that people from all over the world that come here to see. This is not a second-class vacation. A vacation home is a premier vacation, and this is a premier destination. So that's what we need to get out to tourism, tourists and resident travel in Newfoundland and Labrador. So we're going to start that campaign when travel restrictions are lifted, and that was lifted just the other day. So we're hoping to get that plan in place, or that campaign in place, mid-June. So stay tuned, mid to late June, stay tuned. It will be a 10-week campaign. Now, one of the key things that I want to talk about this campaign is it's 10 weeks, but we're going to keep that campaign not season specific, because we want to be able to expand it out and extend it into the fall. because there's an opportunity for fall travel. We all know fall travel is wonderful, so we want to extend the opportunity as operators stay open or choose to stay open or expand what's going on, that we want to be able to provide the opportunity and motivate travel throughout the summer and fall season. The campaign is going to be television, radio, digital, and social. And the key of this campaign is to, of course, increase visitation and travel around throughout the province by Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, but it's for them to actually engage and work and participate in tourism products and experiences. That's where we're all going to work together to showcase what Newfoundland and Labrador is all about, that non-residents have been enjoying for years, and it's also, bottom line, help increase revenue to those tourism operators who are going to remain open for the season. So someone asked before, what is the impact of resident travel? Well, Newfoundland and Labrador tourism gets over 1.8 million visits to newfoundlandandlabrador.com. 547 of those visits were from within the province. So that's a good indicator of how many people within the province are going to newfoundlandandlabrador.com. And the reason that's really important, sorry about it. The reason that's really important is because we're going to drive people to that particular website. And for Labrador, I just wanted to point out that Labrador does have a page on newfoundlandandlabrador.com, and we work really hard and really well with Randy and the DMO and other partners in Labrador to fill and populate this particular page. And last year, we had over 71,000 views of Labrador and the top destination page. I'm going to just click here because I think maybe you guys may not all have seen this. Let's see if this works, Randy, okay, there we go. This is the Welcome to Labrador region page on newfoundlandandlabrador.com. Please go to it, have a look-see.
Yeah, I think you have to share your browser, not your PowerPoint slide projection.
How do I do that? Okay. Oh no.
The actual browser.
Do I stop share and something else? Oh no.
Yeah.
Yes, Andrea, just stop sharing your PowerPoint and then switch to your browser.
Okay, so then I go, okay, thank you guys. Wow, I learned something new today. Wow. Thank you, Randy.
Good to go.
Okay, we got it. So this is the the Labrador regional page, and I said 71,000 views to these kind of pages. And in it, it talks about various things that you can see and do, some of the top things that are available, and you can click through these things and see other products. Plan and book. By the way, plan and book is one of the top things that visitors to newfoundlandandlabrador.com click on. They want to see what there is to do and see throughout this here. So plan and book is key. The other thing I want you to point out is, by the time someone gets to this Labrador regional page, they are further down that path to purchase and further down that information tunnel. So if they're clicking here, they want to know about Labrador. This is what they're further down. They're not tire kicking as much as they are if they go to newfoundlandandlabrador.com generally. As they move down this path, they are more apt to be interested in travel to Labrador. And if they click on the plan and book in Labrador, they're even further interested in. So there's more information about that, a little synopsis about what Labrador has. Then it's top popular places in Labrador, you can see. And then it talks about different experiences that are having there. And then it gets into a listing of all the attractions. Now, this is a sampling of the attractions, and there's opportunities for you guys as tourism operators to list your photos on this, to add more content, to develop things moving there. There's different tours. This is where we list you all. And then we've got, all sorts of listings of all sorts of things to see and do. And then we have customized itineraries about Labrador that people click on. This is viewed also on this page, as well as the itinerary planner, which is key, very key. People are using this itinerary planning very thoroughly to learn how to travel Labrador and the province. And of course, we've got videos. All of these video content and photos of Labrador and things to see and do in Labrador. Again, more transatlantic, Trans-Labrador Highway and Expedition 51. And of course, travel stories that we work with Randy, the DMO, which is Randy, and everybody else to put those stories up. And of course, shared content and Labrador offers. This is key. This is where they're going. So that's a little snapshot of what we have. Oh, look, and then it's got all of the B&Bs, etc. So this is a very hard-working page that works for you guys in Labrador region specifically. Now I stopped sharing that, and I'll go back to my presentation, and I'll go back to this button. Thank you very much. Resume slideshow. Wow, good. So we showed you what we have an in-province campaign. 547 people seem to be in Newfoundland and Labrador have been interested in going on to newfoundlandlabrador.com. We've showed you how Labrador is represented. So how can you get involved in that? Well, it's basic and it's very important, as I just showed you on the numbers, is please, all the call to action through the in-province campaign, just like the domestic campaign and all other campaigns, go to newfoundlandandlabrador.com. So as operators, please review and update your business listings. If you're operating this year, update it for everything that you have. If you've got new safety and security and all sorts of things like that, put that in the amenities section, maximize that opportunity. And you know, Randy can help you with that. If you have any questions, he can help you with that. Our team is on board to help you with that. And there's a number of resources that can help you update those listings. The other thing is, if you're operating for next year, we've got to talk about how we're going to do with that business listings, but put all that information in as well, because the portal is open for updates for 2021 as well. The other thing I want to point out for the domestic campaign this year, not the domestic, the in-province campaign this year, we're going to be doing a series of digital and tactical ads that are going to feature travel offers. So what I'm asking you to do is look at your travel offers, add new ones, refresh them, put as many up there as you want or you want to do. Work with Randy, work with our team to develop those offers. And if you can, put them up before June 15th, so we can include them more specifically in the ad campaign. Portal is open. You can go to the portal and get that information done, get that in there. Now finally, or not finally, the next phase is focusing on 2021 and beyond. And what are we going to do there? Well, Michaela mentioned it and Carol Ann talked about it. We've got to rethink. We've got to look back, and based on research, we've got to rethink what are the markets, what are the audience, what are the products, what are the marketing channels in the context of that new normal. We know we have to diversify tourism. If you're primarily a non-resident operator, there's opportunities for resident. If there's resident market, there's opportunities for non-resident. We do know we have to diversify and change. We need to understand, obviously, the consumer, the composition. Are the independent family traveler, we know there's going to be independent travel. We know there's family travel. We know there's going to be authentic experiencers. And we know there's no such thing as an accidental tourist in Newfoundland and Labrador. We are positioned that way, and we know that about our market. So those who want to come here are going to come here. We also have to understand auto travel. Are they going to do auto travel? They want to do off the beaten path. Again, we're positioned well. there's going to be behavior changes, they're going to want to know about personal safety. That's why on your business listings, in your amenity level, talk about some of those safety things that you're doing that will make them feel more secure. The other thing we need to talk about is there's going to be a never change in the availability and capacity of tourism products and offerings. We understand that. And the product development team, the DMO, or people are there, all there to help you with that particular information if you need that. Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador has been doing a lot of series of webinars that it can assist you as well. The other thing I want to point out is many of us for a long time have been picking up traffic as we go along, just going, oh, I've seen some people go, I hope it's going to be a good year. Well, one of the things that we've noticed from the research is because of the safety and security that people are having now with COVID and with travel, there is looking to be more what they call intermediaries or trip curators, as Michaela mentioned earlier. Trip curators, myself and a bunch of us have been in this business for a long time. A trip curator is an intermediary from the traveler and the operator or the travel supplier. And that, for you and me who've been in the business for a long time, is called the travel trade. And the travel trade is not just group tour. The travel trade is also tour wholesalers who do package tours for 1 and 2 travelers. An old colleague of mine, not an old colleague, a former colleague of mine used to say, Andrea, any more than 2 is a group, any more than 2 is a group, meaning that FIT or independent traveler that has put tours, who travels through the use of the travel trade is going to be key for us in a go forward. So I think one of the things we have to do is think about that. And of course, there's going to be an increase of digital because everybody's using digital. Just look at this Zoom, right? We're all using digital more than we've ever done before. So what can we do for response, recovery, and rebound? It's things that I have been saying, and Randy's been reiterating, your DMOs have been reiterating for quite some time. It is towards the traveler, update and authorize your information on your own website because they're going digital and they're finding the information there. Newfoundlandandlabrador.com, we are pushing information out. They're coming to us. We're renowned for that, and we have huge impact on that. Google My Business is really important as well. H&L did a series of presentations on with Eva Gooch and with digital marketing. I think they're still online, Juanita. So please, if you didn't attend those, go look those up. They were a wealth of information. Continue to review and design and add packages and experiences, not only to newfoundlandandlabrador.com, but double your value, double your bang, put those on your own website. One of the philosophies is create once and then propagate many times. So you have a package, put it in as many places as you can, okay? Develop and continue to share social media channels and stories. One of the things that's happening, you'll notice, is we pick up all of that information we pick all of that content. Randy's got he's working with all of you guys to get some of that content developed. But what's happening now, if you've noticed with local media is picking up that content as well. So not only are we sharing it, the local media is sharing it. And as we go forward into the opening up in the national, Destination Canada is working on some campaigns as well to work on domestic marketing within Canada. So there may be, I'm not sure, for us to share some of that content out through their campaign. So I think it's going to be really important. The other thing is, so you got to develop and we have to share. One of the things that is really important is share your content and and get your customers to share that content. Because if you use the hashtag ExploreNL, we'll pick that up on the back end and we'll share that information as well. Please continue to engage. I know you've engaged with your on social media channels, and you've been engaging with your current and potential clients. Continue to do that. It's really important to get those messages out. And please, if you're not already engaging or working or following our Newfoundland and Labrador social media channels, this is a key time. We've not stopped that faucet. We keep pushing that stuff out, and they're looking for trip information. So if you come and join us on those things, you can share your content and provide information to the customers who are looking for some things. And also, you know what? We're all in this together. We truly are all in this together. So this is more than any other time for us to partner and liaise with our industry peers, your community, your region, and everyone else. We're all in this together, so let's share and talk and work together. For travel trade market, as I mentioned before, there's trip curators. So develop programs and start. There is a training program that H&L has developed with, is presenting, and it was developed with the 4 Atlantic provinces on travel trade. We're updating that program with some around COVID. And so take that, look at those things on newfoundlandandlabrador.com, work with Randy and story themes, ideas, and media pitches. And if you need any assistance, there's lots of it out there, lots of it. You've got the product development team in Labrador. You've got your DMO who's working diligently for you. You've got your regional teams that are out there doing some things for it. And we've got Newfoundland and Labrador Tourism who's there diligently working with all of those people as well. We've been sending out industry e-news, so has Randy, your DMO. If you want to have some, keep reading those. There's tips and tricks. And if you haven't seen it, go to the TCI Tourism webpage. There's a web section and a COVID section. All of that information is there for you as well. My name's Andrea Peddle. I'm the Director of Tourism. It's nice to hear from all you. If you need to contact us, we have an industry liaison officer, Lynette Moores. Lynette's is there for you as well. Visitor services, contact Jackie Harnum. Travel trade, travel media, and market development, Charlotte Yevchek. And of course, Carol Ann Carter is responsible for advertising and consumer engagement. Just like Michaela, I'm going to leave you with one thought. Remember, the best way to God, I wanted to leave with a real good bang. The best way to protect the future is to create it. Thank you very much for spending some time with me. Over to you, Randy.
Well, thank you very much, Andrea. That very informative presentation as always. So thank you very much for compiling all that. Quite a lot of information. And for those who may be scrambling to capture some of that, just a reminder that the webinar is recorded, and we do have the presentations to share later if you'd like to take some time to digest all that information. Quite a lot there, but certainly things are happening fairly quickly here now as the alert levels change and the preparations around the resident campaign start to unfold. So Andrea's mentioned the June 15th deadline is an important one. And having looked at the website and the content for Labrador, safe to say that there's lots of room for more content, lots of room for more special offers, and all you have to do is just go to the Newfoundland and Labrador Tourism Portal, log in to your account or create an account if you have a new offer or experience to add. We'd love to hear from you. Before we jump off to the messages I have to bring from Destination Labrador to help you with that process of getting content to that website, a couple of questions. One is leftover from Michaela's presentation from Linda Dumarisk, who's with Provincial Airlines here in Labrador, and she's saying that it'd be helpful to know if traveler intentions are flying or driving in the future for her business. So a note to Michaela. Thanks for the question, Linda, and for highlighting that. Julianne Griffin's with the Visitor Information Center with the Labrador North Chamber of Commerce here in Hat Valley Goose Bay. And she's saying the messaging is critical, and she's suggesting that there is some confusion as communities and partners may all not be sharing the same message, and that around welcoming visitors. And she's wanting to know, will the province's current messaging of stay home, travel later be updated as we relax public health measures. So Andrea is saying yes. So I guess that's messaging that's coming out of the Chief Medical Officer's office. So that is expected to change, and I suspect the campaign that Andrea is talking about will be a part of that changing message. Thanks for the question. The last one is, sorry, two others. Jackie Grenham with Cane's Quest is asking if there's any consideration to expanding that campaign into the winter to promote winter recreation.
We have in past done an in-province winter campaign. There is some chat about what, if and when and what we'll do for that particular campaign. Stay tuned. Rethink, retool, and pivot. That's what we're at right now. So thank you very much for that input. It is under consideration at this time. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And Roxanne Notley is making a commentary here about the need for incentives for residents to explore next door. And she's noting that, research tells us that Labrador offers can't compete on price. We have to compete on value. And that perhaps there could be some subsidy or incentive to encourage travel. Well, I think the question, as she's noted, is a little bit outside of the forum here today to talk about tax policy, but certainly from an incentive side, that's what they, on our main tourism website, it's pretty clear that we're saying there are special offers available, and in those special offers, we can talk about those incentives. We can present the content that encourages residents to look at Labrador experiences as being unique, and that while there may be a price to be paid for long distance travel in the province, that the incentives of the travel may be presented in those special offers. So that's my suggestion, Andrea. I don't know if you have others to suggest to Roxanne, but I think special offers is probably one way we can do that.
I think special offers is a great opportunity for us to expand on those wonderful things that are going on in Labrador. And remember, this is the time, if we're only doing in-province travel at this point in time, this is a great opportunity for Labrador, because there's a lot of people on the island who probably have not been to parts of Labrador. So this is a great opportunity for Labrador to showcase through those special offers the beauty and experiences that are in Labrador at this time.
Thanks, Andrea. So the last question, Julianne Griffin asking, well, she's identifying the fact that they operate the Visitor Information Center in Central Labrador, and that they will open if there's interest in operating from regional tourism operators. And you had mentioned VICs will open at the end of the month. Is this based on feedback from VIC operators? Because she's saying we haven't had any conversations, or based on further relaxation of public health measures. What's happening there?
When I mentioned that VICs were opening, I meant the provincial operated VICs that are under my purview. So those provincial VICs that we operate will be opening up at the end of the month.
Right. Okay. So regional VICs have the flexibility to determine their operations. Okay. Thank you for those questions. So I'm going to continue with the questions. I'm just going to switch over here now and share my screen and let you know what we're doing to help Andrea with that content on that wonderful website. There we go. Thank you. Just a quick mention of what we do at Destination Labrador, and primarily our mandate is marketing and market readiness and destination development. And each of these blocks on the screen here describe our activity on an annual basis. So we're involved in a lot of trade activity at attending trade shows and marketplaces, as well as consumer shows in Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa. And we do sales calls where we need to meet with operators in those consumer show locations. And we do bring some of those operators that we meet at those shows and media into Labrador on an annual basis over the course of the year to showcase the experiences and operators in Labrador. We certainly work with the Department of Tourism on the advertising campaign, providing the content into newfoundlandlabrador.com and providing opportunities and partnerships with tourism operators to put content in advertorials and so on. And as well supporting operators in feeding their social media content up to the channels that feed into provincial tourism channels as well. From a destination development side, if we look from the bottom up from the slide here, we work with all of you as stakeholders in Labrador, involve you in our working teams in the sub-region level and the steering committee levels to feed content up into, to inform and deliver on the regional destination plan that we have in Labrador. And all that gets fed into the provincial tourism plan through organizations like Hostel Newfoundland and Labrador, the federal and provincial agencies involved in tourism development, and certainly within the provincial tourism board. And on the operator side, we work a lot on the market readiness and experience development. So I'm just going to quickly get into explain a little bit about how that content is critical to us, and basically the content feeds into the marketing partnership we have with the province. And it's worth noting that it's a multi-million-dollar campaign. It's an award-winning campaign. It generates tens of thousands of referrals to tourism operators and their websites annually. And Andrea mentioned earlier that there were 71,000 unique views onto the Labrador regional page. That's quite incredible. And that and our responsibility here at Destination Labrador is to make sure that we bring the Labrador travel content to that website, because without the content, there's very little sales that would happen, of course, other than it would be a lot of bucket lists created. So we need to make sure that digital content from Labrador gets fed into new business profiles, new special offers, and social media content. And if you want to take a look at how we look today, Andrea gave us a quick overview earlier, but I would encourage you to look at newfoundlandlabrador.com and to look at the Labrador regional section, and let's help all of us here to put our best foot forward for the opportunities unfolding for this summer. Now, the content that goes in there is absolutely free. It doesn't cost anything other than your time. We also have programs to help with some content. So from a marketing support side, I'm going to talk about a couple of those programs. One is the Market Readiness Program. We launched this the last couple of years, and we had some uptake late last summer and fall. Basically, we've extended that program for this year, and it allows for the hiring of a consultant to help you with new photography and to get your business profile content and description for your business listing on newfoundlandlabrador.com. So that's a limited program in terms of availability for participants, but we have openings for this year. We'd love to talk to you about that, and I'll give you some contact details at the end of my presentation and explain a little bit more about how that program works. So the second program is Accelerated Market Readiness Program, and it's not a program at Destination Labrador, but it's a pilot project, a project in the South Coast Labrador right now, where operators are being engaged on in a one-on-one mentoring program to improve business operations in a thorough but quick manner, by helping to increase standards of excellence, to respond to new industry trends, and ultimately increase revenues. So I'm just going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into each of those programs. The Market Readiness Program, basically the first phase of that project opportunity for participants is professional photography. And so we would hire a professional photographer to come in and shoot your business to improve your profile listing on the provincial tourism website. Once that's done, the consultant will also help to complete or improve your 200 to 500 word business profile description on the website. And it's important with that photography and that right messaging that you're making a good impression then for those referrals that are coming by having those 5 signature images and your new content about your business listed there. And as Andrea went down through that website, you will note that there's a lot of content there that doesn't have photography added to profiles that could be and should be. It's just a matter of you uploading the images to that to put the content there, or to call me and we'll help you get that done. The second phase of that market readiness project is once the profiles are completed, we also have an optional component where we could be capturing some handheld and drone video footage during the photo shoot. So if you're interested in moving to phase 2, we could be capturing some of that content in the first phase. And then once we have that, the consultant will complete a 2 to 4 minute virtual tour video of your business or special offer. The Accelerated Market Readiness Program is an opportunity for operators to have an informal discussion with a consultant at least 1 week prior to a site visit to your operation. And we're exploring ways where we could actually do some virtual tours as well to replace that on-site visit component, given the restrictions on travel and access. And it allows the consultant to understand the priority areas the operator would like to focus on. And then it provides the consultant with a current information on operations. And then the next piece would be to, based on those findings from the site visit and discussions, the consultant will prepare a mentoring report that benchmarks the business. And that mentoring report would basically cover areas like product, experiential development, delivery, business planning and branding, social media marketing, etc. So we do have some space open for current project in South Coast Labrador, and there's opportunities as well to expand that to other regions of Labrador based on the results we'll find coming out of that completion of that project. So I'd like to make an offer to all of you online today to start on some of these opportunities by contacting me. Reach out by phone or email. We'd love to hear from you. I think it's critical that we get that content on the tourism website, and I'd like to improve our presence with Labrador content there in general. So any content is most welcome. I'd love to talk to you about that. So that's it for me and what I wanted to share with you. Again, the webinar is recorded, and there are presentations we can share later. So I guess I'll, Juanita, I don't know if you want to lead us through the next group of questions. So that, could you help us with that? Is that okay?
Sure. Okay, let's see, was there a question? Jillian, I've heard a lot of talk about the Market Readiness Program. Is there an opportunity to hear from someone who participated in to how they felt about it and the enhancement of their listings on NL.com? So.
Yes, we do, Jill. We do have a document that outlines all the partnership opportunities that are available through DL. So I don't mind sharing that with you or others who may want to get that. Just send me an email. I'll send you out all the details about all the opportunities to join us as participants in other projects, like attendance at consumer shows, at travel trade shows, and so on. So if you have an interest in looking at how travel influencers can be invited into Labrador to have a look at your destination or community or your business, those programs are still available. Certainly there are restrictions to the invitations that can go out these days, but we still have those partnership opportunities available. So I can share those later, no problem.
Yeah, I think the other part of her question, Randy, was that is there any testimonials from anybody that you've worked with in the market readiness and saw improved traffic through their profile on newfoundlandlabrador.com?
I don't have any testimonials that talk to improved traffic, but I do have testimonials from those who have participated and that their profiles look a lot better online than they have been. So I know those who have been involved with us in the past have been we're very pleased by the results of the work we've done. And going forward into this year, we will have some of those same consultants available and some new consultants available to go in and do that work. And the issue, I think, sometimes for us is delivering programs like this is the cost of travel in Labrador limits the availability, or the budget has limitations on the amount of work we can do. But certainly we're open to working with anybody to make some of this stuff work. So yeah, so last year we had Pioneer Footpath, participate in the market readiness program, Gateway Labrador. We had a Hotel North 2, Hotel North, and Motel North also participate, and we have others who want to participate and are asking. I have a short list right now of those who are asking us to participate for this summer, but there is room for more. So Jill, if your stakeholders and anybody from your region would like to have more opportunity to talk about that, then just let me know, please. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Randy. So I guess I'll do my little part and then we'll open it up again for questions and answers.
So we're 2 minutes past our deadline of the time we allotted for the webinar. I don't see any other questions there. So I'd like to take this time to thank Hostel Newfoundland Labrador for co-hosting this with me, and I'd like to thank all the presenters from the Department of Tourism, Culture, Industry and Innovation for their informative presentations. And I'd like to thank all of you as participants for staying with us here this morning, and your questions are most relevant, and thanks for your engagement, and look forward to following up with you very soon. So, Carol-Ann, over to you.
No, Juanita, were you going to say a few words there before we conclude?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a little overview. It won't take me very long, and it won't be too late, if that's okay. We've been joining all the destination marketing organizations on this series of presentations to give a little bit of an update on what we've been doing. I guess, as the year started, we went to our conference in Corner Brook in February, and we left there feeling exhilarated and looking forward to a great season. Of course, things didn't go as planned. So as the industry association, we basically looked at what we needed to do as an organization to help industry. Our whole team, of course, is working from home, but we're working great and we're getting a lot of things accomplished. Our main priorities have been, of course, helping industry around health and safety, making sure they understand the restrictions placed upon them. We've been working with all of our partners on ensuring that there's some opportunities for business liquidity and supports for their employees. The phase that we're currently working on is working on recovery and readiness now that the restrictions are starting to lift and that you're starting to open your businesses again. We started by leading a provincial COVID-19 task force, which is a working group of the sector organizations, the destination marketing organizations, and our government partners from around the province. We've been leading many research opportunities and surveys, feedback opportunities from industry, so that we're feeding up to the government agencies any issues and gaps and supports, and making sure industry gets that information. As part of an organization, our 3 mandates, of course, is advocacy, membership engagement, and training. On the advocacy front, that's where we're spending a lot of our time, regular meetings with key government officials, making sure that the needs of the industry in Newfoundland and Labrador are heard. On engagement, our engagement team have been connecting regularly with members to make sure we're getting the information directly to them. On a training front, we've been providing opportunities for training for industry. Our eMerit line, of course, all the online products on eMerit is available for free. We've been starting to deliver our customer service programs, Service First and Service Best, through Zoom, currently for free. And also we've been providing our service, Serve Responsible NL program to food and beverage establishments who are looking to do alcoholic delivery and takeout as part of their offerings currently, and so that's available. Part of the advocacy part that we worked with the provincial government on was getting the $25 million fund available so that there was opportunities for industry to get more liquidity. We've been wrapping all this around, I guess, a one industry approach and making sure that all industry was included in what we were doing and not just members of Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador, but everybody was getting the information and the supports that they need. Through all of this, what we found in our research and in our industry engagement sessions is that our industry is shaken. It needs support. Operators are very worried. They're in some financial situations. They're looking for ways to get through to 2021. We've been working with operators to make sure that they have individual business reopening plans, that, you know, every business is different and you'll need different things to meet the restrictions provided by provincial public health. You need clarity on the programs and protocols and support systems that are offered, and we're hoping to provide resources to get that to you. We're developing programs, and they'll be launched soon, to address cleanliness and sanitation. Also, that each operator would potentially need some engineered solutions around PPE, if it's plexiglass, where to access masks, different things like that. We've built a supplier list, so you can access that on our website if you're looking for access to those things. But we mostly know that we need to build confidence in you, the operators, your staff. We know that some staff are wary about coming back to work when you reopen. As we looked into research, that definitely communities need confidence in letting people visit and welcoming them into the business and into the community. And of course, we need to make sure consumers feel safe to enter your business. So we're working on all that. But we know right now that we have to have life after lockdown, and we have to live with COVID right now in our businesses, and we're here to support that. So we don't do all this alone. We've been working regularly with all the destination marketing organizations, with Randy at Destination Labrador. We have great connections with our national partners nationally in Canada. And of course, we're working closely with the COA and the Department of Tourism Industry Innovation. So, of course, if you need anything from us, if you have any questions, make sure you're visiting our COVID-19 resource page. Sign up for our emails that we send out every day, and contact any member of the staff. We're here to help. Thanks.
Thank you, Juanita. There's just one question there. The Newfoundland and Labrador Indigenous Tourism Association was wondering if there are any Indigenous representation or Indigenous organization on the task force. And if not, would it be possible to have representation? So I'll throw that to you.
Yeah, well, I will mention that to Craig, of course. But as I said, on our board also feeds into that. And of course, Tara Saunders from the Halapu First Nation is a member of H&L board. So she does bring the Indigenous scope to our board discussion. So that is being covered off, but I will mention it to Craig about expanding the task force.
Thank you, Juanita. Any other questions that anybody wants to ask at this time of any of the presenters? Well, we have just a minute. We know we're over time, but hopefully if anybody has any last minute questions. Not seeing any, so just give it a minute. Juanita, can you share the link again to your website? They were trying to copy it down. So if you can post it maybe in the chat room.
Yeah, that would be Alexander Cabot with Emma Sweets.
And does the COVID task force provide updates to others? I know from Labrador, we would love to have any updates the task force has. I don't believe, Juanita, you prepare like minutes or meeting notes or anything like that, but it's up to all of the other organizations that are there to go and kind of share back to their stakeholders.
Yes, it's mostly an information sharing and kind of getting the treetops on what's happening, but it is the organization's role to then share information that they learn to their constituents.
Okay, So we should reach out to Randy on that. Randy is on that group, so definitely Randy's on all of the calls.
Yep, so I'd be happy to discuss anything that's happening, coming out of that. I see it more as an opportunity to feed information up. So I'm constantly making people aware at the task team what's happening in Labrador. But if there's information that people are seeking about efforts provincially, then just reach out and give me a call. I'll be happy to share my the knowledge I had from that table.
Perfect. Okay. I'm not seeing any other questions. So this conversation doesn't have to end. All of the stakeholders and partners and people that are on this call are more than happy to answer any questions you have after this. So given that we've taken up more time from your day than we had anticipated, we'll put a close to the call. But you have everybody, if you need to reach out, and the only contact you have is Juanita's or Andrea's or Michaela's or mine or Randy's, reach out to them and we'll get you in contact with the right people. So thanks so much for your participation today, and we'll sign off. Randy, unless you have something to add.
No, I could acknowledge one person here. I don't really, sometimes I don't do that, but I want to acknowledge the partnership we've enjoyed with Red A and the Francophone Association Newfoundland Labrador. Mustafa Fizwi is just letting us know that he's retiring and leaving Labrador. So congratulations to you, Mustafa, for all the good work you've done with us, and all the best for a safe and wonderful journey ahead for you. So thanks very much for joining us this morning and letting us know that. That's it for me, folks. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend. Bye.